I've been doing software engineering for a very long time, back in the days before anyone really used open source. We built all of our own components from ground up, and that was a very painful world, having to build everything from zero. It's reinventing the wheel. So open source, it was magic when it really came along and became adopted. But then rapidly ran into the challenges around licensing and compliance and all that sort of stuff. And so it turned into, spreadsheets of listing all the packages that you were using, and then what license they had, and then approval or not approval, and tracking those in spreadsheet programs, and spreadsheets. And then, getting the developers to remember to add to that spreadsheet and open it was disruptive to them, and they would forget, and then you'd have a compliance problem. Wikis came along, and we started putting them on wikis, which made it a little more accessible because, shared Google Sheets weren't around at that time. So then you got a wiki, and you could start putting it on a wiki, but it's still a very manual process. And then the documentation to publish the required notices of use of open source. We had a documentation engineer that was writing that documentation and publishing a PDF that we attached to our corporate website. And that was a lot of work and it was a very manual process and error prone. And we had to go and double check that the licenses and the platform matched the licenses. And there was, it was always risky because there was no 100% surety that a machine had scanned it. It was always human eyes, human checking, and very time consuming and super painful. And so, for years we did that at different companies before Applause. When I joined Applause, I had inherited a system that was very similar to that, and I started asking the question. It was 2017 or something at the time, and I said there has to be a better way, and I started looking, and so. A lot of the tools that were out there that I ran into initially were just sort of lipstick on the old pig of wikis and spreadsheets, and they just kind of were an application that wrapped much of what we were doing, but still required all the manual work. And then ran into FOSSA, and you guys had it automated. You guys were scanning the software, you were picking up the licenses, you were automatically flagging, you were letting us set our what licenses we liked and what licenses we didn't like, the compliance rules. So we got to set our own preferences. You integrated with our workflows for bug tracking systems, so we could directly export compliance issues into our Jira system for engineers to work on. And later on, you added vulnerability management, which we'll talk about. But it was it was just a breath of fresh air in terms of a process. We threw out the old system. It didn't have to import anything because the whole new system was automated, so we could just literally delete what we had, connect it up, which was super easy, by the way, and then just started working from day one, and so that was definitely a breath of fresh air. I wish it was there many years beforehand, but it certainly allows us to know we're in full compliance, and to know that there are machines doing work where humans were including myself, we're flawed in doing it the manual way, and it gives us a great deal of comfort on the legal side. And also it generates all the documentation that we need to stay in compliance with all those licenses, and we're able to answer questions from our customers on our use of open source and things like that. And so that's kind of a summary of how it's helped us go from the dark ages to the modern age.